Hi, Peter here. Thank you for joining us for our 7th virtual reading. And we look forward to seeing you in person, but we're not sure when that's going to be. I'd like to thank my Murphy Writing colleagues, Stephanie Cawley and Taylor Coyle, who make this possible, and all of the things we've been doing virtually. Tonight, we'll be seeing and listening to our special guest, Denise Duhamel. Her most recent book is Scald, which was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. And she has a whole bunch more books. This one, Blowout, came out in 2013, and there's Girl Soldier, there's the Star Spangled Banner, there's Queen for a Day, there's Kinky, which is a book of poems about Barbie. And the first book where I first got to meet Denise was in this one, The Woman with Two Vaginas, erotic poetry based on Eskimo mythology. I bet you haven't thought about that one in a long time, Denise. Anyway, Denise is a recipient of fellowship from the Guggenheim Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts. Her work is featured in, I think, most volumes of the best American poetry. And she currently lives in Florida, where she'll be reading to us from tonight. Now, something very special, because Denise is our first special guest, is that stick around after her reading, and she's agreed to answer a few questions. So we'll have a few minutes with the Q&A with Denise Duhamel. Next week, our featured readers will be 3 faculty from Stockton University. Poets Emily August and Cynthia King, and Emily Van Dyne will be reading from her book in progress, Loving Sylvia Plath, which will be published by Norton next year. And I'd like to thank you, those of you who contributed to our Pass the Hat Fund. We were supposed to stop these readings and our other programs in April, but due to your generosity, we're able to continue them through May and into June. And that's the same with our Murphy Write-ins, which will be on Mondays and Wednesdays. And we'll keep posting our daily prompts too on Canvas. So if you go to murphywriting.com, you can register for those to get those daily prompts and write to them, and also put in your work and maybe get some feedback. If you missed our previous virtual readings and would like to re-experience them, go to the Murphy Writing YouTube page. Stephanie will post that link in the chat box, so you can bookmark it and go there. Let's see, we have a couple other programs. Everything I've mentioned so far is free, but we do need to bring in a few bucks. And so we're offering additional sections of 2 online writing workshops, Form and Freedom, an online poetry workshop that Stephanie Cawley will lead, and Writing Multitudes, a memoir workshop that I'll be leading. Now, we're also going to have, usually we have in May what we call the Sure Thing writing getaway in Atlantic City. We can't do that. So instead, we're going to do it online, and we're calling it the Unsure Thing writing getaway. So go to murphywriting.com, and you can find out all about that and these other programs while you're there. Now, if you're not familiar with Zoom, there's a couple of things you can do. On the top right of your window, you can see either the gallery view or the speaker view. Click that and you go back and forth. And the other thing at the very bottom, there's a reaction. So you can clap, or you can put a thumbs up after each of the poems that you hear if you'd like to. So that'll work for you. So don't forget, after the reading, Denise will read some poems. Sorry, she'll read some poems now. And after her reading, there'll be a Q&A. So please welcome Denise Duhamel.
Hi, thank you all for coming. I'm really glad there's not a thumbs down. There's only a thumbs up and clapping. That's really very wonderful. I'm going to start with a poem. Oh, first of all, I want to thank Stephanie and Peter and Taylor for inviting me, and all of you for coming. I want to start with a poem that I just finished about 2 hours ago. It's called Pandemic Pantoum. In Pennsylvania, Steve's dentist cancels his visit, says his temporary crown will have to do until it's safe to open up again. In Massachusetts, my sister's doc can't replace her hip, says her limping will have to do. What is essential? What isn't? In Massachusetts, my sister can't get her hip replacement, can't go for a long walk, even with a mask. What is essential? What isn't? In Texas, Athena works at Whole Foods, can't believe a lady walks in without a mask, and she's pregnant, imagine? Athena works at Whole Foods, the chain where my own doctor shops. She's pregnant. Imagine, my doctor says, me having a baby. My own doctor shops for formula online, just in case she can't nurse. I'm having a baby during a pandemic. if I'd only known. In December, my sister and I find a formula to keep my mother safe, a good nursing home, then a pandemic, if we'd only known. Many patients test positive, have COVID-19 in Rhode Island in this good nursing home. No family has visited my mother for 7 weeks, and still patients test positive for COVID-19. The nurses dress like astronauts and visit my mother's bedside for 7 weeks. They ask if they can open a window. My mom says the nurses dress like astronauts in protective layers, so they're overheated. My mother says, sure, open a window. In Florida, I walk with a mask, protective fabric layers, so I'm overheated. It's hard to breathe when it's 90 degrees. In Florida, I walk with a mask, though many of my neighbors do not. It's hard to breathe when it's 90 degrees, dodging people to practice social distancing from many of my neighbors who do not. 2 people have died of COVID-19 in my building, so I try to practice social distancing. A maintenance man is in the hospital with it. 2 people have died of COVID-19 in my building, and we have to wear masks in the mailroom. A maintenance man is in the hospital with it, and the other maintenance staff look scared. We have to wear masks in the mailroom, elevators, the laundry room, and hallways where the maintenance staff look scared holding mops, their hands in blue latex gloves. Elevators, the laundry room, and hallways are now cleaned with hospital-grade products. Still, I take out the trash in blue latex gloves, then peel them off so I don't cross-contaminate. I wish I could clean with hospital-grade products. My Clorox wipes are almost gone. I peel them one by one so I don't cross-contaminate as I wipe down the light switches and doorknobs. My Clorox wipes are almost gone, and there are no more to be found in stores. I wipe down the light switches and doorknobs, TV remotes, faucets, and toilet handles. There's no toilet paper to be found in stores, but I did score some Kleenex on Amazon. TV remotes, faucets, and toilet handles can also be cleaned with alcohol. I did score some Kleenex on Amazon that I can use for toilet paper if I have to. Purell should be 70% alcohol to kill coronavirus, though soap works too. You can use flannel for toilet paper if you have to. Bust magazine recommends cutting up bed sheets. To kill coronavirus, thoroughly soap your hands while singing happy birthday. Bust magazine recommends cutting up bed sheets to make your own masks, then zooming into your friend's party to sing her happy birthday. In her New York apartment, she wears a paper crown she's made herself. Glad you're zooming in to celebrate. She's even made her own cake. In her New York apartment, she wears a paper crown and puts lipstick on for the first time in a month to celebrate. We friends text her emoji cakes. Corona is Latin for crown, the shape of this virus. I put lipstick on for the first time in a month, then close my mouth tight. Corona is Latin for crown, the shape of the virus. In Pennsylvania, Steve's dentist cancels his visit. He closes his mouth tight until it is safe to open up again. This next poem is called The Unruh Turning, 2019, but it's, and it's based on Wilfred Owen's poem called The Unruh Turning. And some of you might know this poem. Wilfred Owen was a famous poet of World War I. And I read this poem in 1919. So much about it is about death. And I read this poem in 2019. Wilfred Owen died in 1919, and somehow this 100 years just stuck in my head. So I'll read his poem first. It's called The Unruh Turning by Wilfred Owen. Suddenly night crushed out the day and hurled her remnants over cloud peaks, thunderwalled. Then fell a stillness such as harks appalled when far gone dead return upon the world. There watched I for the dead, but no ghost woke. Each one whom life exiled I named and called. but they were all too far or dumb or thralled, and never one fared back to me or spoke. Then peered the indefinite, unshapen dawn with vacant gloaming, sad as half-lit minds, the weak-limbed hour when sick men's sighs are drained. And while I wondered on their being withdrawn, gagged by the smothering wing which none unbinds, I dreaded even a heaven with doors so chained. So I was thinking about, obviously, all the deaths over the last 100 years, but specifically in 2019. So this is my poem. And it's, I guess I would say it's a golden shovel. Anyway, you'll hear it. I borrowed quite a bit. The Unruh Turning, 2019, after Wilfred Owen. Suddenly, cops crushed Black citizens, hurled their expletives over speakers. The wall was code for fuck you. Immigrants appalled when cages signaled the end of their world. On CNN, I watched, tried to be woke. Each one whom life exiled, I named and called. But dumb poetry did nothing. Enthralled with justice, I was naive when I spoke. The dead peered at me. I scrubbed pots with dawn, as if I could scrub the dead from my mind. Like the sink my imagination drained. And I pondered how the world has withdrawn, gagging on religion, closing the blinds. I made sure my door was bolted and chained. So the next poem I wanted to read is also a poem that borrows a lot from a more famous poem. And the famous poem I borrowed from is Jabberwocky, which I hope some of you remember as a kid. I think most of you probably, I'll just read the first stanza of Jabberwocky and I'm sure you'll remember all the rest. So this poem by Lewis Carroll begins, "'Twas brillig and the slithy toads did gyre and gimble in the wave. All whimsy were the borogoves and the mome wraths of grave." So, of course, this is a poem of nonsense words, which I used to form a spine, I guess you would say, in this poem. So my poem is called, "It's Just Words, Folks, It's Just Words." Donald Trump, October 9th, 2016. "'Twas nasty and the slithy bimbos did gyre and whine in the pageant. All piggy were the gold diggers and the moms who breastfed in public. Beware the pussy, my sons, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware those plastic surgery tits and shun any frump who won't put out." Trump took his Vorpal sword in hand, longtime Maxer subscriber he tugged, and then rested he in his tum-tum tower and stood a while in thought. And as in lustful thought he stood, he saw Hillary with eyes of flame. Still, Trump touched his wood and burbled as he came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, his Vorpal blade went snicker-snack. We thought his presidential chances dead, yet Trump came calumping back. "Only I have slain the Democrats. Come to my arms, underage girls. Oh, frabjous day, how much do you weigh?" We watched Trump's flag unfurl. This next poem is called Testimony, and I wrote it the day after the Kavanaugh hearings. Testimony. After he tried to kiss me during his office hours, I ducked and scrambled into the hall, wondering if I had imagined it. After he tried to kiss me, he dismissed all of my poems in workshop, though I wondered if I was imagining that too. Maybe I was indeed a mediocre writer. To get off the TA waiting list, you were supposed to give the chair a blowjob. I wish I were misremembering this. The 2 women who received the teaching positions thought I was uptight because I was brought up Catholic. I was drinking back then, I confess, but no amount of wine makes my testimony less true. It was the first time I lived somewhere warm, even in the fall. I wondered if I would have been safer in mittens and a coat. I wonder if what those two TAs remember of that time, if they feel shame or rage or have somehow internalized it all. I never spoke up. I had no language to do so, not even in my poems, which became conceptual and abstract. Instead, I drove into the desert and posed as a cactus, kind of like that yoga pose, though I didn't know what yoga was all those years ago. I just wanted thorns, those cholla spines that leapt out when a predator came too close. This next poem is called Folkways. I don't know, you probably can't see the ocean behind me, but the ocean is behind me. Folkways. I see the sea getting closer. I read we'll soon run out of drinking water. I floss the steak out of my teeth. I should be a vegan, even the teenager told me so. She said I had the right sandals and earrings. I step off the plane, look up my carbon footprints. Greenland is melting due in part to my recent Google search. All my dead iPhones, along with scraps of bologna and turkey bones, add to the landfill populated by vultures in some countries, child scavengers in others. I buy South American fruit in North American groceries. Sustainability is a hoax, the article says, but I recycle anyway, cycle instead of drive when I can. Emma evacuates Santa Barbara, wildfire in her rearview mirror, a laptop covered in ash and a few books in her trunk. I say goodbye to my furniture and clothes whenever I evacuate for yet another hurricane, decide what to bring, what to leave behind. My friend's favorite joke, what is the population of Bombay? Wait a second, let me check my watch. When I was young and naive, I had a foster child from Bangladesh. This was before I knew how much the charity's CEO was making. I was an adjunct in New York City with 3 jobs, but I knew I was rich by comparison. I could pretend I was a good person, my sanitized love and concern reflected in the drawings the child sent. I started to volunteer instead at the Catholic Worker, ladling soup and oatmeal into plastic bowls. The homeless smelled like I would have smelled if I didn't have running water or a toothbrush or quarters for the laundromat. Eileen Miles slept outside her New York City apartment with the homeless, but was sure not to use any of their resources and took her own food so that the truly needy could get first dibs on dumpster bagels. Until you have no toilet paper, you can't imagine how precious it is. No tampons or moisturizer or shampoo. I live in Florida now, where a graying man makes his home on the beach. He is a war vet, my neighbors say, but I am not sure which war. There have been so many. He showers where others simply rinse off the sand. He waited out Irma in a shelter while I drove away with friends. Now he sleeps near the restrooms in the park and shuffles down to the surf, takes his morning swim. When he catches me leaving him half a roasted chicken, he says thanks for the delivery. He says maybe his luck is changing. Maybe one day soon the ocean will come to him. And then I'll end on this poem. It's called On the Occasion of Typing My First Email on a Brand New Phone, which, I mean, this phone is old now. Oh, I have a text. This phone is old now, but it's that idea, like someone really resisting technology, which I do. And here I am on Zoom, and here you all are on Zoom. So we're doing better than we thought. So I'll end with this poem. On the occasion of typing my first email on a brand new phone. When I sign Denise, autocorrect suggests Denise Richards, which makes my ex-husband, Charlie Sheen, which makes me a mother of 3 daughters and sometimes more, as I also volunteer to take care of the twins Charlie fathered with his 3rd wife, Brooke Mueller, while she's in rehab. In my new identity, I'm 10 years younger, a lot skinnier, but I haven't read much. In my new identity, I get breast implants so I can be in Wild Things, for which I become pretty famous because of a sex scene with Nev Campbell in a pool. But after that, my acting goes nowhere, except for bit parts and my now canceled reality show, It's Complicated, which only runs for a year and for which Charlie calls me greedy and vain. Sure, I get to be in The World Is Not Enough, but Entertainment Weekly rates me the worst Bond girl of all time. In my new identity, I still have a sister named Michelle. I'm still French-Canadian, raised Roman Catholic. I still get to be a writer, but when I'm Denise Richards, instead of poems, I publish a memoir, The Real Girl Next Door. I'm a New York Times bestseller, but deep down I know it's not because I wield a great sentence. In my new identity, instead of overeating, I get more plastic surgery and pose for Playboy when my marriage heads south and I no longer feel sexy and just want to prove something. In my new identity, my mother has passed, but my father is still alive, going to the millionaire matchmaker to look for new love. Though I'm no genius, I'm generally respected because I don't badmouth anyone, even when I'm on Howard Stern. I repeatedly decline to talk about the restraining order or any of Sheen's public subsequent meltdowns. What's the point? Besides, I need to protect my kids. There aren't many famous Denises, and I wonder why my phone, if it's that smart, doesn't suggest Levertov. When I erase Richards, autocorrect still doesn't recognize who I am. As I try to resign, Samsung asks if I'm sure I'm just a plain old Denise. But I really mean denies, or maybe demise. Thank you for listening. Thanks.
Okay, so now you have an opportunity to ask any questions you like about what you heard tonight or any other questions you might have for Denise. So if you go down
I can see you all. I can see you all now. Hey, David, hi.
The participant button at the bottom there, and go to the window to the right, there's something called raise hand. So if you click that button, raise hand, then Stephanie will see it and call on you. Or if that doesn't work, you can just go like that. That helps, and she'll call on you that way. So, all right, so let's hear what people have. So any questions out there, Stephanie?
Not yet.
I'm on page 3. I can see all.
I have a question.
Oh, it looks like Lois has a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I really enjoyed your pantoum, and I wondered if that's how you started out that poem. The same issues on the news every night and the same concerns that we have now, the time seems to repeat itself almost every day. I thought were captured so well in that form, and I just wondered what your writing process was for that poem.
Thank you, Lois. And I loved your reading last week. It was so great. It was so great. Well, I'm really glad that I was invited to read here tonight because it made me end it. I really thought, this thing could go on for a whole year. I mean, I don't know how long the pandemic's going to end, but it made me end it. So yeah, I was just writing. I have a lot of pantoums and I really love that form, but I think the idea of the coronavirus also, like how, not that it's well, it is mutating, but this idea of the news, like the same but worse, the same but worse, the same, oh, it's a little better, but then the same, but also, no, it's worse. It's like a circle that keeps, a wheel that goes around and round and round. So it seemed a really good form to fit what I was trying to write. And I think also because my mom is in a nursing home, which brings up, it's horrible, as you can, probably some of you are going through the same thing, but the idea that you wait for the updates and then, this many dead, now it's this many dead, now it's, oh, one recovered, oops, nope, they're dying. And I think this whole, thing that we're locked in, it feels like Groundhog's Day, actually. Every day you get up, for me, every day I get up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this again, and I see nobody and I just kind of plod along. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I might have to start another pantoum, but I also felt so grateful to get an end to it.
Oh, as you know, Valerie said that a poem doesn't end, it's just abandoned. So who knows what will happen with that.
Yeah, right.
Good, all right. So who's up, Stephanie?
Looks like there's a question from Lynn.
Hi. Hi, Denise.
Hi. Wait, let me find you. I'm going to go to gallery view again. Oh, wait, no. When you talk, hi, Lynn. Hi.
Hi.
When you talk, your face comes up.
The last time we met, you were Skyping into my class at Penn, and I taught Kaching.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Good to see you again.
Well, it was a pleasure. About technology, you were like a big Skyper. You were like very good with tech.
I love Skype. I think it's so much, well, this is better because obviously you can see more people, but yeah, I'm so comfortable with Skype. I don't know why. I think it felt like one-on-one.
Yeah, it was one-on-one.
Your class was in the background, not like in little boxes, you know?
Yeah. And I had the tech guy set us up, but I loved the Jabberwocky poem.
Oh, thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so I'll let the next person ask.
All right, great to see you, Lynn.
Next, we've got a question from Christine.
That's you.
Christine, hey.
Oh, or Lee.
Hi, good to see you both.
I have a question. So it seems like your poems have a wide range from very serious and political to very funny and whimsical. And I was just curious, when you sit down to write a poem or when it starts, do you know which it's going to be, or does that often change and evolve during the process?
Right. No, I have no idea. And I remember the first time, the only reason I even went towards comedy is that I read a very serious poem, like at the New York Poets Cafe, like in 1980, whatever. And people started laughing because it was so over the top. And I realize now, like, completely melodramatic. But then I sort of got into it. And I thought, oh, I can make this even more ridiculously melodramatic and funny. So I think yeah, I kind of never know, actually, when I'm writing. Sometimes I surprise myself and make myself laugh. But other times, like the testimony poem, like something, you know, the sexual harassment poem, those are like harder actually for me to read. And it was kind of good that I couldn't hear you not respond. You know what I mean? Like those kind of, like, I guess I'm addicted to, like, if I'm reading something funny and someone laughs, then I can get feedback, whereas it's harder with the more serious poems. But I guess I never know till it's over or in the middle. It's that thing like tragedy and comedy, that mask of like half of the person laughing and half frowning. I think they're so connected, you know? That's a good question. I wish I had a better answer. So I guess I don't know.
We have a question from Marissa.
Hi, I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. Hi, Marissa.
I don't know. I've been struggling to write, like, at all. So how do you write? How do you, like, I don't know, it's just really hard to sort of find any inspiration / time / the will, because you just get bombarded with like bad news all the time now. So I don't know, I haven't been productive at all since we started quarantine. So how have you?
This is the only thing I've written, and it took me, I'm a really fast writer normally, or I like not, you know, I'll have like 30 different poems I'm working on at once, and this is the only thing I've done since March 15th or something, and it took me forever. So I'm really struggling with that as well. And I think it's because I'm almost superstitious. Like, I don't want to write about it, honestly. I would prefer not to write about it because I feel like someone is going to die that I know. You know, it's hard, really hard to make jokes now. It's almost impossible. I remember on April 1st, did you see this story? On April 1st, usually Google would do some kind of April Fool's thing. And not only did they not do it this year, I think it was in Korea, if you did an April Fool's joke that involved coronavirus, you got a fine of $3,000. I mean, I think we're in a hard moment to make lights. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm thinking of that tragedy plus time equals comedy. I mean, I know some like late night hosts are able to get a few digs in, you know, maybe at the government, but we're in a really weird time. Maybe the one thing that is helpful, and I don't know if you'd be interested in this, but collaborative work I think is really good. I have been writing, I forget about this, but I have been writing a little bit every day with my friend Julie Marie Wade, and we send like little paragraphs back and forth, and we're just calling it, you know, the Quarantine Diaries. I mean, who knows if anything will come of it at all, but at least it keeps me writing. So, but yeah, I think this is a really hard time to say like, write every day and be like, I think we're all in deep trauma, honestly. And there's quite a few really helpful articles online. There's one in the Chronicle of Higher Education that talks about this is not a sabbatical. This is not time to paint your house and, you know, redo your closets or whatever. I mean, you can do that if you have the energy, but honestly, we're going through something really awful, and maybe, you know, maybe read. I've been reading a lot, which is helpful, but I don't think you have to respond with writing. I mean, it's great if you can, which I normally don't say. I haven't been able to write through anything, but this I think is really, maybe because, as Peter was saying earlier, like it's the whole world is involved, you know?
Let me give a plug for those who are trying to find a way to write. Go to Murphy Writing and sign up for our daily write-in. We have a prompt every day, and then twice a week on Mondays at 4, Wednesdays at 7, we write together on Zoom like this. And you know, what I find surprising is, okay, I don't really have anything I'm going to say, but I'll give it a shot. And all of a sudden the hour goes by and it's, oh my gosh, I've been writing.
Fabulous.
That's the only writing we're doing right now, but it's something. So maybe try that, Marissa, and see, we'll be happy to see you there to do that. Good.
Yeah,
By the way,
that's a really good idea.
A plug for, Denise mentioned the writing that she does with Julie Marie Wade. This is one of her collaborative books that has just come out last year, Unrhymable. So maybe these little things will come out to the next version of this.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. All right, Stephanie, we have time maybe for one more question. Is there anyone else who has something to ask?
Sure, let's go to Rena.
Rena.
Oh, we're trying.
I was wondering who you're I was wondering who you're reading right now, especially when it comes to form poetry like Pantoums, because I'm actually doing my traditional like unit of poetry with my students remotely, because to me it's the only thing that really makes sense to be doing with them right now. So and I'm doing things differently but also the same. So I'm just curious because I'm about to do things like Pantoums, and I teach middle school, which is really hard. They love it, but it's also really hard. So I was wondering, who do you read to get inspired in terms of forms like that?
That's a really good question. Well, I'm not reading any Pantoums at the moment, but there is a really good book by, oh God, it's called Mimi's Trapeze. Do you know this book, anybody? Oh, they're all muted, but it's called Mimi's Trapeze, MIMI''S Trapeze, and her name is Jill, and I'm blanking on her last name. But Mimi's Trapeze, if you just Google it, it's so good. Thanks. Okay, good. Oops, now I can't hear you.
She's been muted.
Oh, all right, bye.
All right. If there is somebody else, we'll take one more question, Stephanie. If not, then we'll say goodnight. Is there someone else?
One more question. It is, or two. Do we have time for 2 more questions?
Yeah, we can squeeze in 2. Okay, we got mine, but then we got to cut it off.
Sure. First up, we'll go to Mary's iPad, which I think is.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. I can't find it down here now. Oh no, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so you can hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. I love the use of Jabberwocky, and I think it would be a really good challenge if all of us tried to write more about the current political according to that rhyme scheme or that kind of meter. And when you were saying that, all I could see was an image of Tweedledee and Tweedledum, but it looked like Donald Trump.
Yep.
And Dumb and Dumber. It was really kind of interesting. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I think that might be a good prompt if everyone just tried to Jabberwocky. I'm sure it's online, and just try to rewrite it.
I had to memorize it in middle school.
Yeah, me too. So good.
I had to memorize it. Yeah, in middle school, I had to memorize it, and stayed with me ever since.
I know, it's so fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and one last question from Jen.
Hi, Denise. How are you?
Oh, hi. How are you? Good to see you again.
You too. So
Hi.
I wanted to ask, I notice even when your poems are serious, they maintain this certain buoyancy. And I begin wondering if that's from this certain blend of both inward looking at nature, at human nature, but also like keeping an outward look. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about maintaining a certain buoyancy and what advice you have for writers.
I do. Right. I think that's a really good question. I do think that it's easy. I mean, for poets, I mean, I'm so guilty of this, like that navel gazing thing of like, my pain is the worst. It's awful. I hate it. Like what? You know, even that Pantoum poem about the pandemic, it's like, I know people have it so much worse, you know, so much worse. So I'm always very self-aware maybe of that, and trying to bring in even like other people, or just some kind of consciousness that it's not only me, if that helps. I mean, yeah, and it's hard to do sometimes because you want it to just be like, like, you know, a cry, right? Great, thank you.
Well, thank you, Denise. I really enjoyed this very much. Thanks for joining us. I know you had a big date tonight. You were going to go out, walk on the beach.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. I'm going out to dinner, a movie, sure.
All of that. And thank you all for joining us. I hope that we'll see you next Friday for Emily August, Cynthia King, and Emily Van Dyne. And join us. Let's do some writing again, Monday at 4 p.m. and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Come to our write-ins. And if you're too shy to do that, you can just go to the our Canvas place. So register on that murphywriting.com, go to our Canvas website. Every day, Monday to Friday, is a brand new prompt. And you can write to that, give feedback to each other, and that'd be great. So thanks a lot. And if you happen to see the Pass the Hat button in the chat section on the way out and want to throw us a few bucks, we could appreciate it. Let's keep these things going. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.